بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين اللهم أخرجني من ظلمات الوهم وأكرمني بنور الفهم اللهم افتح علينا أبواب رحمتك وانشر علينا خزائن علومك برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. Alhamdulillah, we have tawfiq to continue our study of Mafatih al-Hayat by Ayatollah Jawadi Amuri Hafadahullah. As you remember, we were talking about social engagements, what we should observe in social life, in community life. We talked in the last session about reconciliation and mediation, and in this session we want to talk about two things. One is about helping the oppressed, helping madhloom, and second, inshallah, about amr bil ma'roof wa nahy anil munkar, to enjoin the good and prohibit the evil. With respect to protecting and helping the oppressed, as you know, in Islamic value system, justice is very, very important. And maybe we can say justice is the value that in all circumstances has to be observed and maintained. It's not like, for example, telling the truth, that maybe occasionally we come across some situation that for saving, for example, life of people, we might be permitted to tell a lie. Justice is something which, according to our ulama, they say it's the complete cause, is al-illatu tamma for goodness, and injustice is al-illatu tamma, the complete cause for badness. It means that nothing can be as a barrier, as a mane to stop it. In any case, I don't want to go to that discussion. Just I want to say that for us, justice is not something which comes in the list of tens of different virtues. No, it's one of the most important and one of the most fundamental ones. And justice is a very comprehensive also concept. Even if you are one person living together, living in a cave, in a desert, still you can be unjust. To whom? To yourself. To whom? To insects. To whom? To the, environment. So it's not just something about social life. It can be personal, it can be interpersonal, it can be with other creatures. So it's very comprehensive concept. A requirement of our high regard for justice and condemnation of injustice and oppression is that when someone is oppressed, you must feel that it is like you being oppressed. We as human beings, especially then we as Muslims, as believers, on top of being a human being, we should have the greatest sympathy with the people who are oppressed. Let alone, na'uzu billah, ourselves, being part of the injustice, part of the oppression. That should never happen. So, let us mention few things, although this may not need that much discussion, therefore the discussion here is short, but still to bless ourselves with some hadith. We have some hadith here. One is from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in which Rasulullah says, even if you are required to travel to help a mazloom, you should not be hesitant to travel. Sir khamsata amyal unsur madluman, sir sittata amyal aghith malhufan. Mil is a distance unit which was used, and maybe, of course, we have to rely on the definitions of our maraja, but something, you know, like a mile, but not exactly a mile today. So Rasulullah says, if you are going to need traveling, it's not in your city, you have to travel even up to 5 miles, for example. Suppose it's like mile, say mile. Up to 5 miles you have to travel to help a mazloom. And if it's not just mazloom, is malhoof. Malhoof is someone who is asking for help, because sometimes mazloom doesn't particularly or generally ask for help. He's silent. But malhoof is the one who is screaming out and crying and asking for help. For this, you even should travel longer distances. So it's not a matter of saying, okay, if someone comes to me and asks for help, I will help. Or if someone is, you know, living in my neighborhood, I help. Or if someone is in my town, I help. No. You need to help the mazloom, the oppressed, even if it needs traveling. Of course, in order not to make life of people, you know, miserable, say, okay, for example, up to this distance at least. But of course, if there is something that even from distance you can do to stop zulm, you should do it. Amirul Mu'minin alayhi salam, in that famous saying that you all know, said, Kuna lil-zalimi khasma wa lil-mazlumi auna. He advised his sons, but also we have in this version, which is from Ghurarul Hikam, kun lil-zalimi kun lil-mazlumi auna wa lil-zalimi khasma. Similar concept, you know, just whether it's a single or plural depending on the context and the audience, but the same thing. Be for the madloom aunan, means a help. For zalim, be an enemy, in the sense that stop him, don't support him, or don't be just indifferent. You need to stop zulm. You may remember, some of you who have listened before, when we talk about the, you know, rights and relations among the believers, we had this beautiful concept that you have to help your brother. أَعِنْ أَخَاكَ ظَالِمًا أَوْ مَظْلُومًا. You should help your brother whether he is a zalim or madloom, whether he is unjust or oppressed. Then the person didn't understand, what does it mean? He said, how can we help someone who is zalim? And Imam said, you help your brother when he is zalim by stopping him. Not that you let him carry on with his zulm. So when you stop zalim, you are actually helping that zalim, because that zalim then would not add to his crimes. It's out of our concern. Inshallah, I will talk more about Amr Ma'roof later. So we should not think that this is a kind of hatred game, or it's a kind of, for example, I don't know, having no mercy. No, we have mercy, but even mercy for a zalim requires you to stop him, not let him do more zulm to people, and for sure to himself, because any zulm to others is also a zulm to ourselves. There is no way to do zulm to others without doing zulm also to yourself. This is why we say لقد for example in Dua Kumail we say قد ظلمت نفسي. ظلمت نفسي, it's because anything that we do which is wrong, it's injustice to ourselves. من يتعدى حدود الله فقد ظلم نفسه. Even if I don't say my prayer, it's zulm to myself. It's like, for example, you don't take your medicine, it's zulm to yourself, to your health. So Amir al-Mu'minin alayhi salam, according to this version, which is in Ghurarul Hikam, Nahjul Balagha is not the only collection of the hadith of Amir al-Mu'minin. We have a very nicely organized and mostly collection of short sayings of Amir al-Mu'minin called Ghurarul Hikam, and this is the source and the reference for this hadith. كن للمظلوم عونا وللظالم خصما. In some versions is للظالم خصما وللمظلوم عونا. The order can be different, but the meaning is the same. Imam Sadiq alayhi salam said, and this is in Al-Kafi, ينصر المظلوم ويرحم المسكين. Describing mu'min, Imam Sadiq says, mu'min is the one who helps mazloom. You cannot be a mu'min without helping mazloom. It's a requirement of iman. As I said, it's actually a requirement of humanity, but mu'minin are more expected to be supporting and helping the mazloom, oppressed. وَيَرْحَمُ الْمِسْكِينَ. Mu'min is the one who has mercy for the needy people. And mercy, as we have discussed in discussions about understanding God's mercy, we said mercy is not just feeling, just some emotions. Mercy means loving without expectation and with giving something. Even if that can be a smile that you can do only, for example, to smile. That can be your time, that can be your advice, that can be your money, but you have to do something so that you can say, I have had rahmah. If you just say, I feel sad, but I don't want to do anything, this is not making you rahim. So, mu'min yansurul madloom wa yarhamul miskin, helps the oppressed and has mercy on the needy. Nafsuhu minhu fi ana wan nasu minhu fi raha. Mu'min, when it comes to himself or herself, takes all the troubles. Tries not to be burdened on anyone. And nasu minhu fi raha. People are very comfortable with him or her. As much as possible, he tries to do everything for himself or herself. Even mu'min is hesitant to say, please give me a cup of water. Tries to go and take water. Unless, for example, in someone's house, we should ask the host, for example, could you please give me water, But in your own home, as much as you can, you do your own things. In the society, in the community, I go to, for example, inshallah, our masjids and centers become open. I should do things as much as I can. Keep things clean, I don't know where we put the shoes, where we make wuzu, if we are going to have food. Everything that you do is showing that you are a mu'min who is fully fledged in your iman, or it's a mu'min just on the surface. A mu'min who has full-fledged iman, Imam Sadiq alayhi salam says that is very happy to take all the troubles, but not to be a trouble for others, not to be a burden for others. People should live with you for days or weeks or years, depending on the relation, and always feel very happy, very comfortable. They want to do for you something, but you are hesitant to put pressure on them. وَيُسَاعِدُ مَنْ سَاعَدَهُ. Imam Sadiq alayhi salam says, and mu'min helps the people who help him. Our point was about yansurul madloom. Mu'min should help madloom. And then Ayatollah Jawad Yawali has a heading about the reward for helping the oppressed. Imam Sadiq alayhi salam says, Ma min mu'minin yu'inu mu'minan madluman إلا كان أفضل من صيام شهر واعتكافه في المسجد الحرام. This hadith is from Bihar al-Anwar. ما من مؤمن, there is no mu'min who helps another mu'min who is madhlum, يعين مؤمنا مظلوما. So there is no believer who helps another believer who is oppressed unless it is better, means it is considered by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, considered in Islam better than what? Siyam shahran, 1 month of fasting, wa'atikafi fil masjid al-haram, and doing i'tikaf in masjid al-haram. Perhaps it means the whole month that you are fasting, you do i'tikaf instead of 3 days, for example, or 3 nights. You do whole month, and instead of in normal masjid jami in the city, you do it in the masjid al-haram. This is the reward for helping a mu'min who is madhloom. And of course, madhloom doesn't need to be something always, great. Madhloom can be someone who is in his family oppressed. Maybe a husband, maybe a wife, maybe a child, maybe, I don't know, a parent, a grandparent, I don't know, maybe a neighbor is madhloom, maybe an employee is madhloom, sometimes maybe employer is madhloom, sometimes imam of community is madhloom, sometimes ma'moom in the community is madhloom, sometimes, I don't know, a cleaner is madhloom. There can be all different types of people and all different degrees of zulm. We cannot be indifferent to any degree of zulm. Zulm is a germ, zulm is a virus. You cannot say it has to reach the point of killing and then I will get involved. No, you should stop it in the first place. Because if you don't stop in the first place, you would lose your sensitivity first. And secondly, I can promise you many of these small things, little by little, they will grow and become worse. It's easier to stop it in the first place. But if you yourself are madhloom, and this zulm is coming from people who are, friends, community members, family members, who are not necessarily bad people, but they are people with shortcoming. They are people with bad akhlaq, but you know that they are not systematically, working against you. You can be patient, you can forgive, you can have helm, forbearance. So I'm not saying that we should make every case of zulm a case to fight for it, a battle, involve other people. But this is about madhloom. But others, if mazloom is in need of help, should help madhloom, but in a wise way. Not that, you interfere, not that something which is private, you make it public, not something that is, for example, still remaining with some kind of haya and some kind of shame, and we all enter and then we destroy the haya which is there between the people who are involved. So there are lots of considerations, but what is important is that we condemn and we should free ourselves. This is very important. Free ourselves from the least of zulm, even if it is mesqal khardal. We should keep away from zulm. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Man akhadha lil mazlum min al-zalim kana ma'i fil jannati musahiban." According to this beautiful hadith, Rasulullah is quoted as saying, whoever takes the right of the oppressed from the oppressor. So not only stops the oppression, but also asks the oppressor to give the right to the oppressed. Rasulullah says, he would be with me musahiban, he would be companion with me, he would be living with me in heaven. Isn't it that all the messengers of Allah have come to establish justice in the society? لَقَدْ أَرْسَلْنَا رُسُلَنَا بِالْبَيِّنَاتِ وَأَنزَلْنَا مَعَهُمُ الْكِتَابَ وَالْمِيزَانَ لِيَقُومَ النَّاسُ بِالْقِسْطِ. Allah says He has sent all the messengers. For what? So that they help people and people establish social justice. So justice is the aim and the ideal for all the messengers, for all the prophets, all the imams, and inshallah finally it will be achieved in a universal scale when Imam Mahdi comes. But we cannot leave it till then. Actually, if we want that happen, we have to start with stopping first zulm coming from us. This is the priority. Make sure that you don't do zulm to anyone. If you see in the world there is zulm, okay, this is very bad and you have to see how you can stop it. But first, stop it coming from yourself. This is the problem. We always try to fix external problems. And sometimes we don't have power to do that. And sometimes we are not able to do that. Why? Because we don't have good record of being just people. People that their life shows that they were committed to justice. So, at the same time that we monitor what is happening around us or in the world, at the same time that we try to help the oppressed everywhere in a wise way, but the priority for every person and every community and every group and every organization is to make sure that at least they don't do zulm to anyone. And believe me, if we don't do zulm to other people, our voice would be more heard. If they see that we have eliminated zulm among ourselves and with outsiders, then they would listen to us. This is why I believe that Imam Mahdi Ajjalallahu Ta'ala Farajahu Sharif, in order to start his mission, in order to be able to convince people who are by that time tired of hearing, beautiful words, beautiful, ideologies, but no reality. In order to convince people, he has to show that not only we have beautiful ideas, but we have people who have already established these ideas, even if it's in a smaller scale. In my humble opinion, there must be at least a community, either in one place or a network, but there must be a community of faithful that they have eliminated zulm among themselves, and any zulm coming from them to outsiders, so that Imam says, look, we are such people and these are my people, and we are happy to share our experiences. Every person would like to become part of such community that doesn't do zulm even to their enemies, as Allah says in the Quran, لا يجرمنكم شنآن قوم على ألا تعدلوا. Who is refusing to be part of a community that even to their enemies they don't do zulm? This is the way forward, and this is the way that Imam inshallah is going to act. So it's very important that we reach that point that we have a sizable, I am not saying in millions, but at least thousands of people that they have eradicated any kind of zulm, either to themselves or to outsiders or to the environment, to the insect, to the birds, to the air, to the water, to the soil. No zulm is coming from them. These people can be parts and parcels of a universal movement for justice. But if I have a case in the court against my partner in business, or I have a case in the court with my wife, I have another complaint in the community, then I can then help Imam Mahdi with universal mission for justice. It's not possible. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, according to this hadith, said, "Man akhadha lil mazlum min al-zalim kana ma'i fil jannati musahiban." Whoever takes from the oppressor for the oppressed, means take the right of the oppressed from the oppressor, would be with me in heaven. The next issue is Amr Ma'roof wa Nahya Anil Munkar, to enjoin the good and prohibit the bad. As you know, this is a very important principle in Islam. And this is that the Quran itself in many places emphasizes on. We mentioned just some 2-3 verses to prepare the ground for this discussion, and inshallah we will have at least one whole session on Amr Ma'roof wa Nahya Anil Munkar. In Surah Al-A'raf, verse 157, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that among the characteristics of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam that people of the book had already been given, because before that says yajidunahu maktuban indahum, they found him written down, the description was given in Torah, in Injil. Then one of the characteristics of the Prophet is this: ya'muruhum bil ma'roof wa yanhahum 'anil munkar. So this was like a kind of sign to know who is that prophet. A prophet, a messenger would come that among different things, one of his principles of tabligh and one of these principles of activities and Islamic way of life is al-amru bil ma'roof wa nahyu anil munkar. Because this religion is not religion of individuals only. Yes, it is in religion of individuals, but this religion is religion of humanity. This religion is a religion that social life is highly regarded. In some discussions I have said this important sentence from Allama Tabatabai. If it was said by ordinary scholar, maybe you could say, he didn't have, enough knowledge and enough, credit to say this. But someone like Allama Tabatabai, with all the knowledge that he has on Quran, Hadith, he's a mujtahid, he's a philosopher, he's arif. He says, everything in Islam has a social dimension. Everything, even your wuzu has social dimension. Even your nawafil, although you are recommended to say your nawafil at home, but has social dimension. We need it for success in our community. Your Salatul Layl contributes to improvement of our community. Your recitation of the Quran, even alone, contributes to raising the level of light in our community. Everything in Islam, he says, has social element. So this is why, or this is one of the reasons that among the characteristics of the Prophet that was promised to previous nations is ya'muruhum bil ma'roof wa yanhahum 'anil munkar. This prophet is not someone who is indifferent about what happens in the society, what happens in the family, in the community. This prophet feels responsible for everyone, and his followers should feel responsible. This is different from being nosy. This is different from enforcing your ideas and imposing your ideas on others. Inshallah, we'll explain about this. But it's a matter of having concern. It's a matter of feeling responsible towards others. Another ayah is the advice of Luqman al-Hakim, Luqman the wise, to his son. Ya bunayya aqim as-salata wa'mur bil ma'roof wanha 'anil munkar wasbir 'ala ma asabak inna dhalika min 'azmi al-umur. Surah Luqman, verse 17. My dear son, establish prayer. Prayer is not only for us, prayer has been always there. Establish prayer. وَأَمُرْ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَانْهَ عَنِ الْمُنْكَرِ. Enjoin the good and prohibit the evil, and وَاصْبِرْ عَلَى مَا أَصَابَكَ. Be patient with what happens to you. Patience is needed, prayer is needed, but also Amr al-Ma'ruf and Nahy al-Munkar are also needed. Also, in a very general way, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says to all Muslims, Surah Al-Imran, verse 104, وَلْتَكُنْ مِنْكُمْ أُمَّةٌ يَدْعُونَ إِلَى الْخَيْرِ وَيَأْمُرُونَ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَيَنْهَوْنَ عَنِ الْمُنْكَرِ. Among you or out of you. There are two ways to interpret this ayah. Either among you there must be such group, or from you such group must come to exist. Means you must become such people that you call towards the good. يَدْعُونَ إِلَى الْخَيْرِ. It's not enough that you are good. You have to be a voice also for the good. You have to improve the condition of the life of people. So, ad-da'watu ila al-khair, to calling towards the good, is very important. And يَأْمُرُونَ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَيَنْهَوْنَ عَنِ الْمُنْكَرِ. This shows that Amr bil-Ma'ruf and Nahy al-Munkar are two instances of da'wah ila al-khair. These are two instances of delivering your task of calling towards the good, helping everyone to move towards the good, but not by sending them towards the good, by being there and inviting them. If I ask people to do something good, I should be there and say, please come, in an honest way. Not that, I am not careful about myself, saying, please go towards the good. This is not da'wah ila al-khair. I cannot be on the street and say, no, you are invited to my home, go to my home. This is not da'wah. I should be in my home and say, please come to my home. So, يَدْعُونَ إِلَى الْخَيْرِ. And also, finally, for today, Surah Al-Imran, verse 110, كُنْتُمْ خَيْرَ أُمَّةٍ أُخْرِجَتْ لِلنَّاسِ. Very beautiful ayah. You are the best nation which has been brought forth for humanity. Several times we have mentioned this point. This is not a kind of favoritism to say that you are the best, you are the chosen people. No, you are the best to serve. أخرجت للناس means for the benefit of people, not for being dominant over people. We are to serve, we are to benefit. Even when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala comes to Ibrahim alayhi salam, it's very interesting. Allah says, إِنِّي جَاعِلُكَ لِلنَّاسِ إِمَامًا, not عَلَى النَّاسِ إِمَامًا. Imam loves people. A good leader, a good father or mother, a good teacher, a good imam of community, a good alim is the one that doesn't need to impose himself or herself. He is wanted, she is wanted, because it's benefiting them. Of course, maybe some people are short-sighted, they don't understand it quickly, but if they have experience, if the time passes, they will realize. Don't be losing your hope or your courage when you see some people, maybe even your own children, sometimes don't appreciate. But the reality is that you are there to help them. You are not demanding anything for yourself. Imam is for nas, linnas. Kuntum khayra ummatin ukhrajat linnas, not ala nas. Okay, what then this ummah that is brought forth for humanity do? تأمرون بالمعروف وتنهون عن المنكر. You do أمر معروف والنهي عن المنكر, but in a practical way. When we live in any society and there are non-Muslims, believers, non-believers, our presence there should encourage others to be family oriented, to be socially oriented, to be organized, to be disciplined, to be educated, to be, helping. This is Amr Ma'ruf in a practical way. Quran says something very beautiful. Inna salata tanha anil fahsha'i wal munkar. Salat does nahi anil munkar. What does it mean? Salat does nahi anil munkar. Does it mean that salat says, anhaka anil munkar, I ask you to stop bad things? No. Means salat is a reality that if exists, bad goes away. And also the Quran says, as-salatu ta'muruka an natruka ma ya'budu aba'una. Does your salat ask you that we should stop worshipping what our fathers used to worship, the idols that they were worshipping? Salat does amr ma'roof wa nahy anil munkar. Not just words. Connection to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, being a good person, does the job. Okay, inshallah, bi'iznillah, next week we will have more detailed discussion about Amr Ma'roof and Nahy Anil Munkar. This was a preparation based on the ayat. Inshallah, we will have lots of discussion from the hadith and also then again from ayat. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. May Allah bless you.
I have a question from Sister Alia F. Haydari. So
Yes.
Sister Alia, if you'd like to come on the mic, you are being allowed to come on the mic. Bismillah, Sister Alia. Sister Alia, if you'd like to come on the mic, please. Okay. The question is, I have a question. When it is says be an enemy to the zalim, does it have to be physically stopping them? Or can we be an enemy through, for example, boycotting Israel's products? So that's the question. Sheikh, now you will have to unmute your mic again.
Inshallah, this is one of our topics actually that Ayatollah Jawadi Amoli has already dealt with this question. What are the levels of Amr Ma'roof and Nahy Anil Munkar? It's not that you always go to the highest level. No, there are gradual steps that we have to take in order to make sure that Ma'roof is observed, Munkar is stopped, or Zulm is stopped. And of course, inshallah, I will explain also that there might be cases that the overall balance of benefit or harm for doing something sometimes might lead to the conclusion that we should just condemn it in our heart. Sometimes we have to express it also. Sometimes we have to do something practical. Inshallah, we will talk about it in details in the next session.
If anyone would like to raise their hand to ask questions, so inshallah you'll be brought forward to unmute yourself. Normally, so please raise your hand and inshallah I will bring you forward. Dr. Lali Fatima, Bismillah, come forward. Sister Lali, you can unmute yourself.
Assalamu alaikum.
Salamun alaikum wa rahmatullah.
My question was about the issue of justice.
Yes.
And you said that we should ignore certain things which are happening in our surroundings. maybe as part of our process of development for sabr and mutual adjustment. But then on the other hand, if this goes on, especially in domestic situations,
Yeah.
we are not actually establishing justice in the home.
Yeah.
So if there's no justice in our homes, how could that be implemented in the society?
Yes. Thank you very
Where do we find this balance?
Yes, thank you very much. This is a very important question, and it needs few factors to be brought together, and then we should make a calculation. One is that we should not do zulm. This doesn't need discussion, it's clear. Number two, we should not accept zulm, or even worse, invite zulm. Sometimes we accept zulm, sometimes we actually invite people, because the way we behave and because we are weak, we are not able to speak, we are not able to communicate, we are not able to stand for our right, we are inviting other, if they want to do zulm, we say, okay, look at this person, this is the easiest person to do zulm. This community is the easiest community to do zulm on them, because they don't know how to defend their own rights. They just maybe keep silent, or maybe they just shout, and after some time they become silent. So not to be passive, not to invite others to do zulm. Then if you make sure that you have not done any of these things, and still someone is doing zulm to you, if this person is a person who is vicious, or is part of a vicious organization, or vicious party, or vicious group, or vicious country, this is one scenario. Sometimes this person is not a vicious person, it's a person that has positive points, negative points. خَلَطُ عَمَلًا صَالِحًا وَآخَرَ سَيَّا, as the Quran says, they have mixed of good actions, bad actions, good characteristics, bad characteristics. It can be my brother, can be my sister, can be my father, my mother, my husband, my son, my daughter, my uncle, my cousin, my neighbor, but they are one of us, a community member. This moment who is a shopkeeper, or this moment who is buying from me, they have maybe sometimes bad temper. I am not inviting them to do zulm, I am not passive, but I know that I have to be patient with this person, because this person is not easily going to change, and if I want to fight, there is no end with this person, and there is no end in the community, because no one is perfect. Even I am not perfect. Who can say I am perfect and everyone also should be perfect with me? I am not perfect, no one else is also perfect. It's a matter of just degree. Some are mashallah much better, some are less, but we have to be patient, because it is the same family, the same community. We have to be patient, but without inviting for zulm, without being passive, without letting this become systematic, without letting this being organized, being planned. No, I'm not talking about those type of things. I'm saying, a person that many times maybe they themselves also regret, or they are not, able to stop themselves. They apologize later. So we have to increase our patience. One of things that our spiritual teachers say, and in particular one person formulated in a very brief way, was not to annoy and not to be annoyed. In Farsi, he used to say, Maranjo Maranjan. Maranj means don't get annoyed. Maranjan means don't annoy other people. You should not annoy people, this is very important. But for an AROOF, this is not enough. For an AROOF, you should also build capacity in yourself so that you don't easily get annoyed. You don't easily get hurt. not to hurt. Of course, it's very clear that we must, be observing, but not to also easily get hurt. So I am not suggesting that we should let abuse in the family, happen or continue, but I am saying at the same time we should not have a legalitarian approach and say, okay, my brother or my father does, I take him to the court, and my husband, my wife, If we do this, we end up with having no one around us, because no one is perfect, and I am not also perfect. With patience, with giving good example, inshallah, we can make a good, relation with each other. Ahsantum, jazakumullah khair.
There's one question which Sister Sabira has wrote in the chat box. Praying contributes to our community as well as Salatul Layl. Does this apply to us being bad? Does that affect our community? So when there's evil, would that affect our community as well?
Of course. Everything good or bad that we do would affect our community, even if we do it privately. Everything that a father does or a mother does, a child does, even privately, affects the family. Doesn't affect? If father secretly is drinking, it doesn't affect the family. In the same way, if members of the community do bad things secretly, it affects the community. Because our community life is like a house that every brick is, making this. Or it's like a, soup that we are all like ingredients of that soup. And the taste of that soup is our individual taste put together. So this is very important, and I think this needs to be reflected on more. That whatever we do, in public or private, even our intentions, even our thoughts, affect the whole community. May Allah bless you.
Do you have any more